whispered in chilling detail. These ASMR horror stories take you deep into haunted trailheads and cursed American forests, where every step pulls you closer to the nightmare. You're listening to ASMR 404Found. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Growing up in the Midwest, everybody in town used to say Crowley Pines Trailhead was cursed. I always thought it was just a bunch of old-timers trying to keep kids from sneaking into the woods, but man, you gotta understand when every single person from church to the diner waitress to the guy pumping your gas warns you about the same patch of trees. It plants something in your head whether you believe it or not. Folks swore up and down that people went in there and never came back. Some said they got lost, some said they got taken, and a few whispered that the woods didn't just hide you, it swallowed you whole. No, I was never the superstitious type. I'd heard ghost stories around campfires my whole life, but when I turned 23, my buddy Nate straight up dared me to hike that trail at night. He said no way in hell I'd have the guts to go alone, and of course, being the stubborn fool, was I said, you bet your ass I'll go. So one Friday night, I grabbed a flashlight, a pack of smokes, and a half-charged phone, and drove out their old Chevy rattling down the gravel road until I saw that busted wooden sign leaning crooked against the fence, Crowley Pines written in paint so faded you could barely make it out. The county had boarded it off years ago, nailed up a sign that said do not enter. But the fence was all bent and rusted, so slipping through was no big deal. The second my boots hit that dirt path, I swear the air went cold, not like a little breeze. I'm talking straight up basement chill in the middle of summer. My breath didn't fog, but it felt heavy like breathing through a wet cloth, and the woods around me were dead quiet. Crickets, no owls, no rustling leaves, nothing. And that's the kind of silence that makes the hair on your arms stand up. I told myself quit acting like a kid and keep walking, but after maybe 10 minutes, I spotted something sitting by the roots of a pine tree. At first I thought it was just a raggedy old stuffed animal, but when my light hit it, my stomach dropped. It was a Labubu doll, kind you see online with that wide goofy grin and big ears. Only this one looked off, the grin stretched way too wide, like somebody took a knife and pulled the stitching further. The fabric was dirty, the eyes were glassy and cracked, yet it sat upright, staring dead on at the trail like it had been waiting for a minnow. Any normal person would have left that thing alone, but no, not me. I walked right over, bent down, and picked it up, and the second my hand touched it, the air snapped cold enough to make me gasp. I swear it felt like dunking your arm in a bucket of ice water, and worse than that, I heard something right then just beneath the ground, like the earth groaned under my feet. Laughed, nervous, told myself, just spooking yourself, man. But when I shoved that doll into my backpack, it felt wrong, heavier than it had any right to be. I mean, this was just cloth and stuffing, but it sat on my shoulders like a damn cinder block, and when I started moving again, I could feel it shift against my back, like it wasn't settled, like it was wriggling around its. When I heard it, footsteps on the trail behind me, not a deer, not some raccoon. I know what animals sound like this. But slow, heavy, like a person following me step for step. My gut twisted tight. I whipped my flashlight behind me, but the trail was empty. Nothing but trees and dirt stretching back into the Darky told myself, don't be stupid, keep going, but every few steps, I heard it again, crunch, 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 always matching me. I swear every time I froze, it froze till like it wanted me to know. I wasn't walking along about 30 minutes in. The trail opened up into this clearing, bare circle of dirt with nothing growing in it. Not a patch of grass, not a single weed, and right there in the middle was a stone marker about waist-high carved with lines and symbols that didn't look like any writing I'd ever seen, not English, not Spanish, not even native glyphs, just jagged spirals and crooked shapes that made my eyes hurt if I stared too long. You reached out like an idiot and touched it, and right away my fingers went numb like dipping your hand in dry ice, and I swear on my life, something shifted underneath like the ground itself rolled. And Nate's grandma used to tell us stories about things buried out in these woods. Old things older than any settler, older than the county lines, and right then I knew she hadn't been telling fairy tales because when I turned around to look for the way back, the trail was gone, no sign of the dirt path. I'd come down just wall after wall of trees, thick trunks pressed together, like they'd grown up overnight, bark twisted into shapes that almost looked like faces. And not calm faces either, I'm talking wide screaming mouths. An empty ice me stomach dropped, my flashlight beam shook in my hand, and my first thought was, oh hell no, but deep down I already knew it didn't matter how far I ran or how loud I screamed. I had stepped straight into the curse of Crowley Pines, and the Labubu doll in my pack was the reason the forest had finally closed its jaws on me. I kept telling myself, don't panic, just breathe, just keep walking, but man, that's a whole lot easier said than done when every direction looks the same. And the trail you came down is just plain gone, the trees pressed tight like a damn wall. I felt my knees shaking, I mean I've been in some rough spots before, but nothing ever made me feel that small, that trapped like the forest that swallowed me alive. The Labubu doll pressed heavy in my backpack, shifting against me like a restless kid, and I swear on everything I love, I felt it move, not just slide with the sway of my steps. It shifted like it turned its head inside there, my shoulders froze, my heart just about jumped out of my throat, and I muttered, quit screwing with me, man, even though I was all alone. That's when the first sound hit me clear, as they crunched footsteps right behind me, and I spun around fast, flashlight shaking all over the place, beam slicing through the dark, but there was nothing there, just crooked pines and that thick silence. But when I turned back forward there, it was a swing set standing crooked in a patch of weeds maybe half a mile down, like somebody had dropped a playground right in the middle of nowhere. No, I know for a fact no map ever showed anything out here, no old records, no ranger reports, but I was staring dead on at rusted swings, chains creaking in the night, slide tilted on its side, merry-go-round stuck half in the dirt. I muttered, you gotta be kidding me, because the whole thing gave me the creeps, like it was waiting for me. And then I saw it standing dead center of the playground, another Labubu doll. Only this one was bigger, close to child-sized, bright colors, like it was brand new, glassy eyes wide open, and the grin stretched even wider than the one I found earlier. I damn near dropped my light right there, because that thing wasn't slumped over. It wasn't propped up, it was standing on its own two little legs like it had been waiting. to greet me whispered, "No way in hell this is real," and I swear the swing beside it started moving back and forth, chain squealing, no wind, no nothing, just rocking slow. Like some invisible kid was sitting there kicking the air, and over that creek came laughter, not soft, not faint, but loud, clear, ringing through the trees. Like a bunch of kids playing on a summer day, only it was midnight, dead, silent woods. I was the only living soul out there. A doll in my backpack jolted hard against me like somebody shoved it from the inside. I cussed out loud, dropped to my knees, and tried yanking the zipper open, but it snagged, caught like something held it closed. No matter how hard I pulled, and right then the laughter changed. It wasn't children anymore, it was deeper, warped, like a grown man trying to copy a kid's laugh. It echoed from every direction like the woods themselves were mocking me. Staggered back eyes locked on that playground, but the big Labubu was gone, vanished, just like that 1 second. Their next second gone, the swing still rocking, the merry-go-round spinning slow, even though no one touched it. And I said out loud, "Nope, I'm out, I'm done. I don't care what's in this bag, I'm gone." But when I turned to bolt, the trail just kept twisting on itself, bending deeper and deeper into dark, like it didn't want me to leave me. Legs pumped hard, breath burning in my chest, and the backpack slammed against me heavier every second, like dragging a sack of bricks, only worse because I could feel it moving inside. I swear I heard it giggle muffled right against my spine, and that sent shivers through me, worse than anything in my whole damn life. Fiend. Then a voice whispered right in my ear, not loud, not angry, just soft like a warning. It said, "Run clear as anything," and I swear to God it wasn't mine. It wasn't anyone I knew. It was something older, colder, so I ran with everything I had, knowing full well no matter how fast I moved, no matter how far I got, the forest had closed around me, and the cursed Labubu doll wasn't just along for the ride. It was in charge now. Don't know how long I ran, maybe 5 minutes, maybe an hour, it all blurred together. But I swear the trail stretched on forever. Every turn led to another turn. Every bend twisted me deeper, and my gut kept screaming, "This ain't right, man, this ain't right." My flashlight flickered weak, and for a second I thought the batteries were dying. Then I realized it wasn't the light at all, it was the wood swallowing the beam. Like it didn't want me to see. The doll in my backpack slammed side to side, heavy like a bowling ball, and I kept thinking, no way this thing weighs that much. It's just cloth and thread, but every step dragged harder, like I was carrying a whole kid on my back. And then it giggled again, soft, muffled right against my spine. I almost dropped to my knees. It scared the living daylights out of me. Kept muttering to myself, "You're fine, you're fine. Just get out of here, just keep moving." But I wasn't fine, not even close. I rounded another bend and stopped cold, because right there in the middle of the trail was a seesaw split down. Metal boards cracked with age, metal hinges rusted solid, and sitting on one end was another Labubu doll, this one even bigger, about the size of a toddler, legs dangling. It tilted, grinning that same wide-cut grin, and the damn thing started bouncing like it was playing. Without anybody sitting on the other side, I whispered out loud, "No freaking way," because I knew what I was seeing wasn't possible, but there it was right in front of me, bouncing heavier with every creak of the wood. Each slam sent a vibration through the dirt up my boots into my legs. like it was pounding the whole earth. Just to get my attention, the zipper on my backpack finally ripped open on its own like somebody yanked it from inside. And before I could even react, the first Labubu doll I found slid halfway out its head, poking up glassy eyes, staring right at me, grin stretched wider like it was proud, like it was happy to see its friend sitting on that seesaw. I lost it. I flat out lost it. I dropped the bag, kicked it back down the trail, and screamed, "Get the hell away from me." But the wood swallowed my voice like I hadn't made a sound at all, and when I spun around to run, the seesaw slammed down so hard it cracked clean in half, splinters flying. And both Labubu dolls were gone like they'd never been there. The silence after that was worse than the noise, heavier, thicker, my ears ringing like pressure underwater. And that's when I noticed the trees had shifted again. The bark wasn't just gnarled anymore. It was carved faces, hundreds of them pressed side by side, every trunk edged with screaming mouths and hollow eyes, and I swear I saw them move just enough to make my stomach turn. He bolted, no thinking, just raw fear pushing me forward. After what felt like forever, I stumbled into another clearing, this one bigger, ringed by black pines and dead stumps, and in the middle stood a carousel, wooden horses, half-rotted paint peeling, but the whole thing spinning slow on its own, groaning with every turn. On the first horse closest to me sat another Labubu doll, this one full-blown child size, almost as big as my nephew, classy. Eyes unblinking, smile stretched so far the stitches had torn at the corners. I backed up muttering, "Oh hell no," over and over, but my boots wouldn't lift from the ground. Like the dirt had me stuck, the carousel spun faster, the creek rising to a shriek, and I swear I could see shadows riding the other horses, hunched shapes, clinging tight heads, whipping past with every spin, too fast to see faces, but too real to deny. Over it all came the laugh, deep and warped like a grown man pretending to be a kid, and this time it wasn't behind me, it wasn't beside me. It was inside my own damn head, rattling my skull like it was crawling straight through my earth. Doll on the carousel leaned forward, eyes locked on mine, and in a voice low and sharp it whispered, clear as a bell, "You brought me home." I stood frozen in that clearing, my legs locked tight like the dirt itself had me chained down. Carousel grown louder with every spin, horses rising and falling on rotten poles. And the Labubu doll leaned closer like it might just climb down and walk right up to me. I kept muttering to myself, "No way, man, no way this is happening." But the more I said it, the less I believed it. Doll's glassy eyes caught my light, and for a split second I swore I saw them move, pupils tightening just like a real set of eyes, and my gut twisted so bad I thought I'd puke. I yanked my boots hard, finally breaking free of the ground, and staggered backward, my flashlight beam jerking wild across the clearing. And that's when I saw them, faces peeking between the pines, not human, not animal, just outlines, tall, thin, with long fingers clutching bark like claws. I said out loud, "Nope, I'm not sticking around for this, no freaking way." And I turned and ran blind straight through the trees, branches whipped across my face, thorns snagged my clothes, but I didn't care. I just wanted distance from that carousel, from that doll, from everything, and I didn't even notice until I burst into another trail. This one, wider, straighter, like the woods had dropped me back onto a road on purpose. doors, and right in the center, lying neat as can be, was my backpack zipper wide open, and sitting on top of it was the first Labubu doll. Its grin stretched wider than before, like it knew I'd come back, for Edie whispered, "You gotta be kidding me," and against every ounce of common sense I picked it up. Because part of me thought maybe, just maybe, if I carried it out, I could break whatever curse was holding me here, and the second my fingers touched that fabric, the whole forest side, I swear it sounded like 100 people breathing out at once, deep rattling. Rongi shoved the doll against my chest, clutching it like a shield, and started down the trail, telling myself, keep walking, just keep walking. You'll find the edge sooner or later. But the deeper I went, the worse the air got thick, with a smell like burnt plastic and wet soil. It stung my nose, made my throat raw. I said under my breath, "This place stinks like a landfill." Then the whispers started faint at first, like kids gossiping under the bleachers, words I couldn't make out. Then sharper, closer, saying my name clear as day, and I spun around yelling, "Who's there? Show yourself." But the trail was empty, just me and the Labubu doll, pressed tight to my chest, and that smile that would not fade. I don't know why I did it. Maybe adrenaline, maybe stupidity, but I yelled again, "Come on, then you want me, come and get me." The second those words left my mouth, the forest ants were deavery. Tree around me shivered, bark splitting like skin peeling, and out of those cracks spilled black shapes, long and crooked, crawling out onto the trail. Dozens of them, all hunched low, their heads jerking side to side like broken toys, their bodies twisted like scarecrows made of bone. I took one step back, whispering, "Oh hell no, oh hell no." And the Labubu doll in my arms laughed clear right in my earth. Shapes didn't rush me, not yet. They circled, staying just far enough for my light to blur them. Shadows with arms to long legs, bending wrong, their teeth clattering like chattering bones. One by one their heads tilted to the side, just like the doll, and in that moment I understood. They weren't leading me anywhere, they weren't chasing me either, they were hurting me deeper. Just like livestock down a chute, they bolted again, no thought, just raw panic, my breath tearing at my lungs, and every time I glanced back I saw them keeping pace. Not running, not stumbling, just gliding through the trees, never touching the ground, never falling behind, and that laughter in my ear wouldn't stop, like the doll was enjoying every damn second after what felt like miles. I came to a ridge, the ground sloping down into a wide pit, and at the bottom glowed faint lights, dim flickers like lanterns or candles scattered across the dirt. In the middle of it all, I saw dozens, maybe hundreds of shapes, kneeling around a giant stone circle, and every single one of them held a Labubu doll pressed against their chest, grinning just like enemy, legs locked again, my brain screaming, "No way. This is real, no freaking way," but deep down I knew it was, and worse, I knew I just found where the trail was leading all along. I stood on that ridge staring down into the pit, and I swear my brain was screaming, "Get the hell out of here," but my body wouldn't move. Every figure down there was kneeling, rocking slow like worshippers in church, and each one clutched a Labubu, the light to their chest, some small, some full child size, some so big they looked like they were about to burst at the seams, and every doll grinned the same stretched grin, eyes glassy wide open like they were all staring right at meth glow came from candles, or at least that's what I thought until I looked closer and realized those weren't candles at all. They were skulls, human skulls, with fire burning inside the bone sockets. Flickering orange light across the pit, and I muttered out, "Loud, oh hell no, this ain't happening," but it was happening and I was knee-deep in it. Whether I liked it or not, the figures all whispered low voices blending into one steady hum words. I couldn't understand, but the sound dug straight into my bones. It rattled my ribs like a bass line at a concert, only this wasn't music. It was some old chant older than anything I'd ever heard. I clutched the doll in my arms tighter and felt it twitch against me. No joke, it moved like it wanted to leap out of my hands and join the others. He whispered, no way, you're staying with me," and pressed it harder against my chest, but that was a mistake, because the second I did, its grin shifted, stretched wider, and in my ear I heard it plain. As they let me go, that voice didn't sound like a toy, it didn't sound like a kid. It sounded like something that had been trapped for too long. I swear my knees buckled, my flashlight beam dropping to the dirt, and when I lifted it again, every single figure in the pit had stopped moving. They weren't rocking anymore. They were all frozen, heads tilted up, eyes locked on mimic, twisted hard. I felt like a deer caught in headlights, and I thought to myself, I'm screwed, I'm flat out screwed. Then in one motion they all lifted their dolls high overhead and screamed in unison, not words, not human voices, just one horrible shriek. They cut through the night and the fire, and the skulls flared brighter, painting the whole pit red. Ground shook beneath me, rocks tumbling down the ridge, and I tried to back away, but my boot slipped on the loose dirt and I slid halfway down, scraping my hands raw on the stones. And when I looked up, they were coming for me, the figures crawling on all fours, too fast to jerky, their dolls bouncing in their arms. I yelled, no, get away from me, swinging my flashlight like it was a weapon. But it didn't slow them down one bit. He scrambled to my feet, bolting sideways across the ridge, praying to God my legs would hold out, and the laughter hit me again, right in my ear, loud, sharp this time, like the doll was cheering me on. And I thought to myself, this damn thing ain't on my side. It never was. It just wants me deeper in branches. Whipped my face as I ran, tearing skin open, but I didn't care. I just wanted out. I crashed through the tree line onto another narrow path, this one lined with old signs. Metal rusted paint peeling with the words half visible, keep out, stay back, danger. I laughed once, hysterical, because I knew I should have listened to the first sign. Back at the fence-heavy path sloped down into thick fog, white and heavy like smoke. The second I stepped into it, the sound changed, the whispers died, the footsteps behind me stopped, and the only noise left was my own heartbeat pounding like a drum. I thought maybe I lost them, maybe I got away, but then the fog shifted, and right there dead ahead stood another Labubu doll, bigger than all the rest, tall as me, grinning wide with torn seams like its face could split apart and swallow me wholly. Stopped dead, muttering, no way in hell, no way in hell. And the doll tilted its head slowly like it was alive, and in a voice low and guttural it whispered, welcome, home. I froze in that fog with that giant Labubu doll standing tall ahead of me. It seemed split wide. Its grin so stretched it looked like it was carved into its face. With the blade my gut dropped cold like I had just swallowed ice water, and my brain screamed, turn around, man, get the hell out. But my feet refused, they felt locked in place. like roots had grown out of my boots and nailed me to the dirt. The air was so thick, I could barely breathe. Every inhale tasted like damp earth and old ash. I said out loud, "Lord, help me, this ain't real, this can't be real." But the doll tilted its head slow like a curious dog, and then it moved one step forward, dragging its own feet across the ground with a sound like fabric tearing. He clutched the smaller doll tighter against me and whispered, "You ain't real, you're just some trick my brain's pulling." But the little one giggled. I swear it giggled muffled and high-pitched like a kid hiding under a blanket, and it said plain as day, "He's realer than you'll ever bet." That broke me. I stumbled backward into the fog. But every direction I turned, the doll was there, the tall one shifting closer. Always the same grin, same tilt of the head, and I kept muttering, "Get a grip, man, keep it together." But I couldn't because my ears were ringing with that giggle, and my chest felt like it was being crushed. Then the fog parted just enough for me to see the trail stretch into a wide clearing, and I bolted straight through my lungs, burning like I was running a marathon, clearing open into what looked like an abandoned carnival ride's broken rusted tents, sagging into the mud and hanging from every beam, every fence, every pole were Labubu dolls, hundreds of them swaying in the breeze, their button eyes glinting in the candlelight that burned on the ground. Sound of calliope music hit me faint, like it was coming through a busted radio, the kind of tone that should be cheerful but twisted wrong, slowed down and warped until it sounded like a funeral march. I slapped my hands over my ears, yelling, "Shut up, shut up." But it just kept on going louder and louder until I swore my skull would split in. The center of the carnival stood a carousel, half-collapsed horses, splintered poles bent, and on each horse sat a doll propped up like riders, their grins glowing in the firelight, and the carousel began to turn, slow grinding like metal on bone, and I swear my heart nearly stopped because sitting on the tallest horse was a doll with my face stitched onto it, eyes wide, mouth grinning too wide to belong to me. Stumbled forward whispering, "No, no, no, that ain't me, that ain't me." But the stitched version of my face looked right down at me, and in my own voice it said, "Welcome to the familiar." Dropped to my knees, clutching my head, begging, "Please, God, don't let this be real, don't let this be real." But when I looked back up, every Labubu doll hanging around the carnival was staring straight at me, no more swaying, no more lifeless, dangling. Every single one had turned its head in unison, and their button eyes glowed red like coals fresh out of a forever smaller doll in my arms, twisted hard like it was trying to break free, and I felt its seams tear. In my grip I held on tight, screaming, "No, you're not leaving me, you're not leaving." But it bit me, its teeth sharp as glass, sinking into my palm, blood spilling warm. I dropped it with a cry, and it landed on the ground, giggling louder, louder, until the whole carnival echoed with the sound. He staggered back, my vision swimming from the blood, and the fog pressed in again, thicker than before, swallowing the rides, the tents, the carousel, until I was alone on the trail again, heart hammering so loud I thought it might blow out of my chest. And then right in front of me, not 5 feet away, stood a child, barefoot, clothes ragged, holding a Labubu doll in its hands. The child raised its head slow, and its face was pale, lips stitched shut, eyes black and bottomless, and it whispered through the stitches, "Come play with us." That child with the stitched mouth just stood there in the fog holding that Labubu doll. I swear every nerve in my body was screaming at me to run, but my legs felt like they belonged to somebody else, like they were frozen in place, and the stitched kid tilted its head like it was studying me like a bug under glass, and it whispered again. Through those bloody scenes, come play with you, she said, no way in hell, no way in hell, man. I'm not playing anything with you, and I tried to back up. Slow, but when I turned my head left and right, the fog was filled with shapes. Dozens, maybe hundreds of small bodies lining the trail, each one holding a Labubu doll. Each face pale, each mouth stitched and shut, but somehow whispering all at once. Their voices overlapping like a broken choir. Saying play, 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 clutched my bloody palm to my chest, whispering Jesus Christ Almighty. This can't be happening, this can't be real. But then the child in front stepped closer and I saw the doll. In his hands its button eyes weren't buttons anymore, they were human eyes blinking wet shining. And they locked onto mine like they were alive. And staring straight through my skull, he stumbled back, whispering, get back, stay the hell away, but the kid reached up with one small hand and tugged at the threads on his stitched mouth. I swear I felt bile rise in my throat as the seams ripped one by one, skin tearing slow and wet, until his mouth opened wide to wide, stretching down to his chest, and he let out a scream that didn't sound human. It sounded like a train horn, mixed with a pig being slaughtered. At that scream shattered the silence, and every other stitched child ripped their mouths open to blood spraying as their jaws stretched impossibly wide, and they screamed in unison. The air shaking, the ground trembling under my boots, and I dropped to my knees, clutching my ears, yelling, stop, stop, God, please stop, bro, the noise. I saw the big Labubu doll again standing, taller than a tree line, arms spread wide like it was welcoming me home, and its grin had grown wider than ever, its face splitting seam by seam like a sack ready to burst. And from its chest poured out more dolls, crawling, wriggling, tumbling onto the ground like ants spilling from a nest. He tried to crawl away, my hands digging into the dirt. But the smaller Labubu doll I had dropped earlier scuttled in front of me, its face now slick with my blood, its teeth sharp and glinting in the dim light. And it spoke in a sing-song voice, saying, you can't leave your arse now, booty. He kicked it as hard as I could, sending it flying into the fog, but more of them came crawling from the trees, from the mud, from the very ground under my hands there, fabric ripping as they moved, teeth gnashing, claws tearing at the dirt. They swarmed me, chanting my name in little giggling voices. How the hell they knew my name, I'll never understand, but it chilled me more than anything. He scrambled to my feet, heart jackhammering, yelling, get back, get away from me, and I ran blind through the fog, not caring where the hell I ended up. But no matter how far I went, the sound of giggles and those whispers stayed right in my ear like they were glued to meth. Trail twisted sharp and I tripped over something, landing hard on my side. When I looked down, my stomach dropped. It wasn't a root or a rock, it was a pile of bones. Small bones, tiny skulls, dozens of them piled like firewood and strung through there. Eye sockets were pieces of doll fabric sewn together into garlands swaying in the damp, windy, gagged hard bile rising in my throat. And then I heard it again, that calliope music, that carnival tune warped and dragging, echoing through the fog like It was being played right inside my skull. I pressed my palms hard to my ears, shouting, "I don't want to hear it, I don't want to hear it," but the music only grew louder, until the bone pile started to shift like something underneath was crawling up. To the surface, the bones rolled clattering to the sides, and from the pit rose another Labubu doll. Bigger than a man, its head tilted backwards like it had no spine. Its arms too long, dragging across the ground, its button eyes blinking wet and alive just like the child's doll, and it whispered in a deep guttural voice, "You belong to the trail now." Me vision blurred, my lungs burned, and I thought right there I was gonna die right there in the dirt with those things closing in. But then I saw it ahead through the fog. A faint glow like lantern light flickering, maybe a cabin, maybe salvation. I forced myself onto my feet, muttering, "Come on, man, come on, you got one shot left." I ran for it, praying with every ounce of breath and that I'd make it before those dolls pulled me under. I tore through that fog like a bat out of hell, lungs burning, chest tight, every muscle screaming, "Run." And that faint glow ahead got brighter with every desperate step, and I kept muttering under my breath, "Come on, man, come on, don't quit on me now. You can do this, just keep moving." The fog opened up, and there it was, a small cabin, squatting at the end of the trail like something out of a nightmare that would blackened, riding the windows flickering with a dull orange glow and smoke twisting. From a crooked chimney the door swung open like it had been waiting on me. I didn't think twice, I bolted straight inside, slamming it shut behind me. Silence inside hit me like a sucker punch. No giggles, no whispers, no crawling fabric. Just dead quiet except for the crackle of a fire in a stone fireplace, and I whispered out loud, thank God, maybe I made it, maybe I finally caught a break." But the second I turned around, my blood ran cold. Walls were covered in shelves, and on every shelf sat rows of Labubu dolls, hundreds of them lined up neat and tidy, staring with their button eyes, every head turned toward me. I swear I could feel them breathing, fabric twitching like they were waiting for a signal to move. Stumbled back, whispering, "Jesus H. Christ, what the hell is this place?" And then I noticed a rocking chair by the fire slowly creaking back and forth. In that chair sat something that froze me to the damn core, an old woman hunched over her skin, pale and paper thin, lips sewn shut with the same black thread as the dolls. Her bony hands clutching a needle and thread, moving in and out of a doll she was stitching. I said, "Hey lady, what the hell are you doing?" And her head jerked up slow like it was rusted on the hinge, and her eyes, milky white, locked on mine. She didn't speak, but somehow I heard her voice in my skull, a dry, raspy whisper saying, "Welcome home, child. You found your way to the stitchery." Shook my head, backing up toward the door, saying, No, I'm not staying here. I'm not part of this." But the door slammed behind me, but the force that rattled the walls, and I spun around, yanking on the handle. But it wouldn't budge no matter how hard I pulled it. When I turned back, the shelves of dolls weren't lined up anymore. They were all staring straight ahead, heads tilted at the same unnatural angle, button eyes wet and glistening, and every mouth had ripped itself open, showing rows of sharp teeth, fabric tearing as they grinned in unison. The old woman rose from the chair, bones cracking with every movement. She shuffled toward me, needle in one hand, thread in the other, and I felt my throat tighten as her voice pushed deeper into skull saying you've carried. The marks since you picked up the doll, you're already one of mine, they screamed at her, get back. Don't you come near me, and I swung a broken chair leg I found on the floor. But before I could land a hit, the shelves shook and the dolls began crawling down, spilling onto the floor like a wave, their teeth clicking, claws scraping wood. As they moved toward me, chanting in those same childish voices, play with us forever, play with us forever. Very bolted for the fireplace, thinking screw it, if I gotta burn my way out, I'll burn. And I grabbed a burning log, hurling it into the crowd of dolls. The flames licking up their fabric bodies, the smell of scorched cloth and blood filling the air. And their screeches rattled the cabin so hard I thought the walls might come down. The old woman didn't flinch, not even once. She just raised that needle high, whispered in my mind louder than ever, once the stitch is made, there is no escape. And then she Getty ducked, rolling across the floor, slamming shoulder first into the hearth. I scrambled up, clutching another burning log, and I pressed it to her chest, her clothes catching fire in an instant, her sewn mouth splitting wide open in a scream that shook the shelves, sending more dolls toppling to the floor. The cabin lit up with fire, heat blasting against my skin, smoke choking my lungs. But I didn't stop. I grabbed that same chair leg and jammed it straight through the boards on the window, smashing until glass shattered, and with one desperate leap I threw myself out into the fog, tumbling into the dirt. I hit the ground hard, gasping for air, the fire roaring behind me, the cabin engulfed in flames. But when I rolled onto my back, I froze right where I lay, because standing in the fog surrounding the cabin were the children, every single one of them stitched mouths, ripped wide, grinning, blood dripping from their teeth, every one of them holding a Labubu doll, and all of them chanting in perfect unison, you can't burn what's already sown. The fire roared behind me like a freight train, cabin timbers popping and cracking as flames ate the place alive, but I couldn't tear my eyes from the circle forming in the fog, the kids holding their dolls tighter, their stitched mouths pulling wider like someone had tugged the thread loose. And they all spoke together, their voices rolling like thunder, you can't burn what's already Sunni. Scrambled to my feet, heart pounding like a jackhammer, muttering under my breath, not today, not like this, no way in hell, I'm dying here. And I grabbed a rock from the dirt, hurling it at the nearest kid. It smacked him right in the head, but instead of dropping, he just smiled, wider blood dribbling down his cheek, and the Labubu doll in his arms blinking. He yelled out, stay back, stay the hell back, and I turned to run. But the ground itself betrayed me, softening like wet clay, my boots sinking ankle deep. When I yanked free, something cold wrapped around my leg. I looked down and saw dozens of little stitched hands breaking through the soil, clawing at my calves like they were dragging me underneath, thrashed, kicking like a wild horse, shouting, get off me. Damn it, get the hell off. And I ripped free, stumbling forward, but more hands shot out, grabbing at my arms, my waist, my shirt, pulling hard, and all around me kids chanted, stitch, 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 louder and louder until it drowned out the crackle of fire and the crash of collapsing within. The fog parted and I saw her stepping out of the blaze, the old woman, the stitcher's skin charred, black smoke rising off her, but still standing tall, her eyes glowing like coals in a furnace. Her hands still clutching that damn needle and thread, she raised it high and her voice slammed into my head so hard I dropped to my knees. The stitch is eternal, the stitch binds you, child. You are mine now. I shook my head, spitting dirt, screaming back at her. I am not yours, I'm nobody's. Don't care what curse this is, I'll fight it. Till my last damn breath, and I yanked the Labubu doll from my pack, the one I found at the start. The one that started all this mess. Doll twitched in my grip, its button eyes rolling back white. His mouth ripping open, rows of tiny fangs gnashing. Together it let out a shriek so high-pitched it rattled my teeth. The stitcher froze just for a second, like she hadn't expected me to bring it this far. I saw my chance. I bit down on the cord round its neck, yanked hard with my teeth, and the head tore free from the body, black thread spilling like veins, unraveling. The doll let out a scream like a dying animal, and the ground shook so hard I thought the whole trail might collapse under me. Kids dropped their dolls, every single one, hitting the dirt lifeless, and for a split second the stitched mouths on their faces loosened, showing raw torn flesh underneath. They started sobbing, then chanting, just crying like real kids again, holding their hands over their faces and backing away into the fog. But the stitcher, oh God, she didn't back away. She came at me faster. Then I thought she could needle stab me down. I barely rolled aside, feeling the tip graze my ear. She hissed like steam escaping a pipe. You can tear one, but can't tear them. Allie grabbed her wrist with both hands, trying to hold her back, shouting, "Screw you, lady, I'm not afraid anymore," and I shoved the broken doll's head straight into her chest, the black thread inside writhing like snakes wrapping around her arms, her neck, her jaw. She shrieked, thrashing, clawing at me, but the thread pulled tighter, binding her like she was being sewn shut herself. Her body cracked like old wood breaking, and she screamed so loud the fog itself blew back trees, bending like a hurricane tearing through. But I didn't let go. I shoved harder, pressing the doll's unraveling body into her chest until she exploded into a cloud of black thread, whipping through the air like a storm and vanishing into the nightie. Collapsed to the dirt, coughing, gasping, shaking all over, and for the first time since I stepped on that cursed trail, the fog lifted. I could see the moon bright and clear overhead. The air sharp and cold, no whispers, no giggles, no hands clawing from the ground. But when I looked down at my arm, I froze. There, stitched into my skin just above the wrist, was a single black thread running under my flesh, pulsing like a vein, and that's when I heard it faint but clear, a whisper curling out from inside my head, soft as a lullaby. You can never leave, the stitch is already inside you. I staggered through the ash-covered clearing, chest heaving, legs like lead, my eyes darting everywhere, half expecting those stitched kids to leap back out of the smoke. But the place was quiet, dead. Quiet, the kind of silence that ain't natural, kind that makes your ears ring like after a shotgun blast. I clutched my arm, black thread under my skin, glowing faint like a coal, and with every heartbeat it pulsed tighter, winding deeper like it was sewing me up from the inside. I stumbled down the trailed branches, slapping my face, mud sucking at my boots. The night so dark, it felt like the stars themselves had been snuffed out. My head spun, whispers curling around me, and voices I knew, voices of my mother, my brother, my best friend, all them saying, come home, child, just lay down and let the stitch finish its work." I shook my head, muttering, "No way in hell, no way, I ain't done yet." He tried tearing at the thread. with my nails ripping at the skin, but the damn thing just burrowed deeper, crawling up toward my elbow, and I swore out loud, "God damn it, this ain't happening. When I beat her, I burn her. I ain't about to let some curse-sowing kid crawl through my veins." I kept walking faster, damn near running, even though my lungs felt like fire. That's when I saw it. The fog hadn't cleared completely. Like I thought it had just gathered a head twisting around a shape, sitting right in the middle of the trail, a small shape, a doll, and my gut dropped. Because it wasn't just any doll, it was Labubu, the same one. I ripped apart its body, sewn back together, sloppy like a kid tried to fix it with broken hands. Its button eyes cracked but still blinking, its wide mouth grinning ear to eerie, froze whispering, "Oh hell no, not again," and the doll tilted its head at me like it recognized me, like it was waiting. And then it lifted its stubby stitched arms, reaching up like a child wanting to be held. I took a step back, shaking my head, saying, "Nope, not happening. Not touching you, not a chance in hell," and the doll's smile widened, stretching so far. It split the fabric of its face, and black thread spilled out like worms writhing toward my bootsy. Turned to run, but the forest twisted behind me, trees snapping into new shapes, the trail bending back on itself until no matter which way I ran, I ended up right back in front of that doll, like the woods had sewn me into a loop. The whispers grew louder now, hundreds of voices chanting, "Stitch, stitch, stitch." My chest seized like someone pulling a thread through my ribs, tightening each breath. The doll dragged itself closer, claws clicking on the rocks, leaving little black stitches in the dirt. Every step it took, the ground stayed sewn behind it, closing off any escape. I screamed at it, "Stay away, stay the hell away," and grabbed a branch, swinging hard. Smashing the doll across the clearing, it hit a tree with a cracked stuffing bursting out. But before I could breathe, it was crawling back faster, stronger. Its grin bigger than ever, then the truth hit me like a brick to the skull. I hadn't destroyed the curse back there with the stitcher. I just fed it. I torn open the fabric. Now it was weaving itself into me and into the land, binding me to it forever. The doll stopped just inches from me, its grin wide, its voice soft like a lullaby. "You are the stitch now, you are the thread, we don't need to chase you. You'll carry us everywhere you go." My knees buckled, I dropped hard to the dirt, clawing at my arm as the thread shot higher up toward my shoulder. I could feel it sewing through muscle, bone, nerves, every twitch pulling tighter like a fisherman's line. I screamed until my throat tore, screaming, "Help me, somebody help me." But there was nobody left, just me and the doll. And the cursed Labubu doll climbed onto my chest, light as a feather, but heavy as sin, pressing its stitched face against mine, whispering over and over, "Forever, forever, forever," and I felt the last. The thread crawl into my neck, into my jaw, my lips stitching shut one by one, until I couldn't beg, couldn't curse, couldn't breath. The last thing I saw before darkness swallowed me was the doll's wide grin, and in that grin I saw the truth. Clear as day, this wasn't the end, it was the beginning. I wasn't leaving the trailhead. I was the trailhead now. Every step I'd ever take would carry the curse into the world. And every person I touched, every place I passed, would hear the whispers of "Stitch, stitch, stitch." And if you ever find yourself walking near Black Pine Trailhead in the dead of night, if you see fog rolling thick as wool and hear the sound of tiny claws clicking in the dirt, don't stop, don't look back, because I'll be the stitched into the earth, waiting with Labubu grinning drowning in my arms, and if your eyes meet mine, even for a second the stitch will find its way into you two forever.